Alright, hey guys, so in this video I want to talk about some calculation on the damage for Barcarola Voyager left. So this first I want to mention about the disclaimer. So this calculation is not done exactly for each attack. I basically did the rotation, calculated all the overall damage, the overall buff, overall debuff, then I averaged it out, and then I calculated that. Okay, so most of the calculation here is based on the rotation of 13 to 14 rounds. So what I want to say here is that if you are talking about like Barcarola, at the earlier stage, she definitely deal less damage because the party doesn't have quartet yet. But as she used more ultimate, more quartet can be generated. More units will be buffed with quartet, and that will increase the overall damage quite significantly. However, what I'm reporting here is the overall damage per round. Here I'm comparing like Barcarola as a single unit, how much damage she does, Voyager, Aleph, and if I combine them, Barcarola with Voyager, Voyager with Aleph, Barcarola with Aleph, how much damage will they do? So do note that in obvious sense, the one in solo or duo will do less than the trio, for example. Like solo compared to duo, solo will do less damage because in duo, Barcarola and Voyager both are dealing damage. So when you put them together, obviously it's going to be more, right? And same thing, if for trio, you're going to put three characters together and they synergize together and the damage will be more. But if you are using like Voyager alone, you can also have characters that buff damage like Mercuria in the party. You can have like Lopera as well, or you have Flutterpage to provide more inspiration. So all of this actually can help Voyager's solo damage to increase to be maybe, I don't think it will be higher because I do think that when you have a synergy between all this, what do you call it, all these characters, their damage will increase quite significantly, right? But if they are solo, you have all these other buffer who are not inspiration, the damage will be decent but lower than the duo version. Okay, but maybe not that much, maybe 20 or 30% lower. But some of my comparison here, or you see some CN site, they show that, from duo, and then you have now all three units together, the damage increased by 100 over percent. Well, if you include maybe Flutterpage in the duo team, then the damage won't increase by 130%, maybe less, maybe 50%, maybe 40%, 30%, right? So do keep that in mind that in the calculation, I did not consider all these different team comp as they are very rotation specific. It's very difficult to just calculate them, and they get stronger over the rounds. So you cannot have like, oh, 3 round cycle, like 3 rounds, and then you calculate their damage and you compare them. That's gonna be wrong, right? That's gonna be wrong. So here I'm doing at least 13 to 14 rounds. The enemy here I use is with 600 defense, 10% damage reduction. So if you see some other calculation that the damage per round is like maybe 100,000, but mine is 200,000, that's because my enemy has less defense, okay? But it doesn't really matter in terms of percentage, and if we are comparing between the units, as long as the basis is the same, okay? So the damage calculator I have is, for example, like this. This is not for the inspiration. I just did this for Lilia. So Lilia before that was like 100% crit. Anyway, based on the crit damage, damage bonus, all these things. And on the enemy side, I have this. Then I put in the percentage, and then I calculated the damage. All right, so this is how it works. But I can say my calculation is not that far off from those that show in CN in terms of percentage wise. So yeah. Anyway, for the rotation, this is the rotation. I have Barcarola. So obviously to use all their incantation every round. And here I'm assuming that everyone is using first melody. Okay, I tried unfinished tune. It's not really good for this inspiration team. Sometimes you want to reset the incantation just because the inspiration falls on the wrong slot in your incantation. If you reset it, you might have the one that you want to use on the slot that has high inspiration. Okay, so first melody is definitely the better choice. So here, like S1, S2, then use the ultimate, because Baccarola's ultimate also grant her +1 Moxie, so she can get back her ultimate very fast, and I want to get her ultimate up as quick as possible. For Voyager, you also want to keep a 3-turn cycle of 4, because her debuff is very important, right? Her debuff to make impromptu attack the unit that we want really make a very big difference, okay? Which is why I think Voyager is actually the most important unit in this setup. Then this is for Aleph. So here after out, I consider that there's extra 2 more incantation, right? Then I calculated the damage. So do note that this is all at P0, all at P0. So for example, here is like I calculated for Baccarola, every time she used S1, that's 200% damage. The others is not contributing, but it's contributing to damage dealt, right? And this is the Impromptu. So I considered the lower end of things, which means like there's a possibility for you to hit maybe like 20 inspiration and 20 inspiration stack on Impromptu, but or I mean like 25. But since it crossed the threshold of 20, so I'm just assuming that it's 20. So this is how I calculate the sum of this damage. So it's depending on situation, I guess. I don't want to explain that on how I come up with the numbers, but I don't think the number will run too far from an actual run, okay? Yeah. Obviously, I will not be able to simulate exactly how the inspiration shard or the stacks will be on Impromptu to determine the final damage of this, because it's really RNG, right? These are the attack stat granted by Baccarola. Okay, so that affects the damage output of Impromptu. So I included this as well. So after that, I calculated how many times Impromptu was attacked, what is the average damage, and then I calculate it out that way. For the duo, same thing. I have the what do you call it? Rotation. So here I only have 4 AP, so I make sure there's only 4 incantation plus ultimate that I will cast every round. If with Aleph, due to his S1, I can slot in 5. So some of the time you might see there's 5, some of the time there's 4, because there's no other more incantation for Voyager and Aleph that I can use, right? Because if you reset using first melody, you only probably have 2 each. Baccarola and Aleph, so same thing, I have 5. All right, here I didn't show, but here will be like S1, S1, but because it's like some of this S1 belongs to Baccarola and some maybe belongs to Aleph, so I just took it out. But do note that I did consider this in my calculation. And then for trio, right, I have to balance out. I need Voyager out to be up every 4 rounds in order for her debuff to be on the enemy. Baccarola, after a while, I get the ultimate. I set it up certain ways that when after Aleph out, I do want to use their out because of the 8 stack of inspiration, which really boosts the damage. Okay, and then I calculated this, right? And this is for Lilia, because I want to know if they are doing solo compared to Lilia solo, how much damage will they do. So this is the final comparison here. Okay, solo Baccarola overall damage is about 67,000 per round, but do note that if there's like 3 enemies and you only want to hit that main enemy, this Impromptu is going to attack randomly everyone. So I'm considering that it's going to be just 35% that you are hitting the enemy that you want. There's a possibility that it's going to hit all the attacks will be on the minion and not even on the boss. So due to that, I calculate the damage loss. So overall, if you're against most fights, effectively she's just doing like 23,000 damage per round on that enemy that we want to target, right? For Voyager, because she has that debuff, that focus Impromptu on the enemy, her damage is naturally higher, and Voyager's Euphoria as well makes impromptu damage becomes splash. So that splash really contributes to the overall damage of Voyager. So up to 65,000 per round. And in terms of single target, it's actually higher than Barcarola due to the debuff, right? So at 35,000. Aleph is like 44,000, which is lower compared to Barcarola and Voyager, but that you probably won't want to use Aleph without them, right? Because of the way he is recasting the incantation, you really want to have this inspiration unit with him. Okay, I dare say that you can use Barcarola alone or Voyager alone in a team full of buffers, but a left you probably don't want to do that if your main focus is on impromptu. If like your main focus is doing more incantation attacks and you're using like with maybe Marcus or some like Liang Yue with able to do high rank in incantation, then yes, you can put a left in. But impromptu won't be your main focus, right? So here I compare it with Lilia. So you can see there's quite a big difference here. If you're talking about Voyager, right? Voyager Euphoria alone with the splash definitely out damage Lilia. But if I consider single target, surprisingly Voyager is still on the higher side. And Lilia is lower, right? So I think if you have Voyager and you don't plan to pull for Barcarola, it's not a bad idea. You can use Voyager as a damage dealer. And not only that, Voyager has utility. It has seal. She has silence. She can even reduce Moxie with her ultimate, like -2. So if you are playing Reverie, you know that all this matters now, right? Not like Raid. Raid, the boss is just immune to it. But in Reverie, it matters. Okay, so here are them solo. So obviously now for duo, Barcarola Voyager is 180,000, Voyager Aleph is 22,000 due to the burst damage and due to the splash of Voyager, and Barcarola and Aleph is 190,000. And again, if you want to consider like if 30%, sorry, with this, without Voyager, I'm going to consider that they have a high loss and only 35% is on the enemy. So you're going to have a huge damage drop due to the inconsistency or the randomness or where Impromptu's attack will hit, right? But with Voyager around, all that can be targeted. And yeah, so this is the overall damage, right? So if you don't pull for Barcarola, it's fine. If you have Voyager and you plan to go for Aleph, it's fine. The damage output is not bad at all. I'm pretty sure you can score Raid SSS in raids. I mean triple SSS in raids. And you can clear Reverie, right? If normally Barcarola Aleph Voyager is taking 4 to 5 rounds to clear Reverie, here you probably need 6 or 7 rounds. So you still will be able to clear Reverie. And obviously now if you put 3 of them together, you have like double the damage of most of the setup. So I saw in a CN calculation, Barcarola Voyager is like 90,000 per round, and Barcarola Aleph Voyager is like 220,000 per round. So it's like an increase of 136%, but mine here I have is increase of 117%, which is not too far off. Yeah, so this is a damage comparison. I hope this video does help you out in order to decide like if you want to pull or not, because a lot of you have been asking me, should I be pulling for Barcarola? Should I not pull for Barcarola? If is Voyager and Aleph good enough? So I hope this video help you out, because it does help me out. I probably will, yeah, just throw 10 to 20 pulls for Barcarola just to fish for her. If I don't get her, it's fine. I will just go. And Euphoria Voyager, I have her at P2, and then I will go for Aleph probably in the future, right? I really want that burst, the setup to do a burst damage. I really like to do that, which is why I like to play characters that has ultimates focus due to the setup to do the biggest damage that we can. I do find that gameplay interesting, all right? Another thing that I want to discuss here is Where is it? Okay, I have all this random. Okay, here. Should we use Baccarola S2? So what do I mean is that if we use, let's say when you have like maybe 4 AP or 5 AP, right? And now you have Voyager, you have Aleph, you have Baccarola. Baccarola's S1, Voyager's S1 and S2, Aleph S1 all increases the number of attack of Impromptu. Baccarola's S2 make Impromptu hit harder because it has 40% damage dealt, but it doesn't add the additional attack, right? So you are losing out one additional attack, but you are buffing all the attacks by 40%. So is it worth it to have that trade-off, right? So this is what I want to discuss. So I did the calculation. If I have 5 attacks, for example, I would be doing 72,000 damage, okay? If I do 4 attack, but I have that 40% damage dealt, I have an increase, okay? So now it's worth it, right? So I just have to make sure if Impromptu have 4 attack and above, then I should use Baccarola S2 because it enhances all 4 Impromptu's attack, okay? And if with Aleph, he can trigger Baccarola's incantation again. So that creates a possibility that we can use 2 times of Baccarola's S2, giving us this 80% damage dealt. So, however, I calculate here with a further reduction of 1 more attack, then the loss is actually quite high, right? So it's not so worth it. But I believe if under this setup, that you can get 80% damage dealt and you have 4 attack and above, maybe you should consider. Okay, alright, I mean I did calculate it here. If you have 5 attack and above, then yes, you can consider because it does result in higher damage. Okay, so hopefully this also help you to decide when you are playing Baccarola, whether you want to use her S2 more or her S1 more to get more attack out of Impromptu or to boost Impromptu's attack. Then this is my calculation for it. One thing that I did not calculate is the inspiration stack, because like, would you trade off using an incantation that is not Impromptu, like let's say Tooth Fairy, but it has 5 inspiration stack on it, because 5 inspiration stacks would equate additional 75% mental damage for Impromptu, and it might lead to another tier increase in your inspiration stack, which then Impromptu will attack more. So I did not do that calculation. It's just too much of assumption, so I'm going to leave that out. Yeah, so anyway, with this damage calculation and everything, I hope it helps you out again. Good luck with your pulls, right? We have like 5 days to decide if you run to pull for Baccarola or not. Or you can wait until Baccarola is released. I will do more tests. One of my friends who now shared her account with me will definitely pull for Baccarola. She have Voyager, so I will definitely test that out, and I will definitely do videos to show you all this comparison. And if you think it's like really good and you want to have this inspiration team full, as in Baccarola, Voyager, Aleph, then go ahead, right? Oh, one thing that I did not do here is Matilda. So unfortunately, Matilda doesn't really add attack to Impromptu. She add critical damage. So again, it's the matter of something like this. If you can have so many attacks, then with all this attack being increased in crit and crit damage, then it's probably worth it to have Matilda in the team. So definitely if you're running Matilda, Voyager, Aleph, the damage may not be as high as with Baccarola, but I think it will definitely be pretty good, right? Maybe just 30 or 40% damage less from this number, and this number is crazily high. They are doing like 4, 5, 6 millions in raids. So if you just bring that down a little, like you use Matilda, you might be still able to do 3 million, which is like, yeah, that's raid SSS, right? You don't have to push for 10 million, right? 3 million is fine. So if you want to use Matilda, you want to build her up, probably not a problem. Maybe I will do that too. so that I can put her with Voyager and I have another 2 buffer, right? So anyway, thank you for watching this video and have a good day.